Welcome to My Hard Drive Died, episode 8. My Hard Drive Died is a podcast where we talk about hard drives, forensics, different aspects about a hard drive, what happens when it breaks, how do you fix it, what causes it to break, what's it made of. And the man that teaches us this is Scott Moulton from myharddrivedied.com. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing good. How are you, Steve?
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. I want to hang on one sec, Scott. Okay. I'm doing good. Thanks, Scott. I probably wanted to start off with this. Well, no, let me ask you something else, Scott. So what's new with you, Scott? You doing any conferences lately, or?
Yeah, I have a conference coming up in about 2 weeks. I'll be doing ShmooCon in Washington, D.C., which is kind of like a security conference, but I'm going to be doing a data recovery talk about diagnostics primarily, how to break down diagnostics and do things like that. And I have a pretty busy schedule because it's right back to back to a class. So I have a class in Atlanta from February 9th to February 13th. And so there's still seats in that class if anybody wants one, but it's going to be end-to-end data recovery, taking drives apart, putting them back together, and I'll be mentoring the whole process and actually teaching both hardware and software how to actually go through the process of doing your own data recovery and starting basically your own company. If that was the direction you want to go. So,
man, I so want to go to one of your classes. How many people normally attend them?
Usually it's somewhere between 25 and 35, but for the Atlanta class, this is an unusual class for this year. It's going to be a smaller class, so it's more personal, mainly because we don't have a conference. Usually most of my classes are taught that coincide with a conference. So there will be a big conference and a week-long thing going on, and then my class is kind of like you can take you can do the conference and do the class at the same time, so you can go back and forth between vendors and things. This one is going to be more personal. It's going to be a small event. It'll probably be something like 10 to 15 people in the class, and that'll give me more hands-on time with the people, but it'll be a smaller event here in Atlanta at one of the, it's like a Hyatt or something here in Atlanta.
Okay. And each person has their own kit, like all the tools they need comes with the class?
Well, there are some tools that come with the class. The only things that they don't really get in the class are some of the more expensive stuff. Like we have a platter tool that we use to remove platters, and the kit's about $600. And so we only have enough for people to use in the class. It's not something we can give away with the class for the expense of the class.
Right.
But they do get a packet of all the other tools, the hand tools and things that we use, torque screwdrivers and some surgical tools and things like that we use for actually assembling and disassembling the drive. But so it's kind of a split between the two. In my distance learning package, I sell this class in a box online. It actually comes with the platter kit and everything else, but the offset is that we don't have the expense of going to a location and renting the facility and doing all the things that we normally do when you have a seated class. So that's kind of the offset between the two, that some will have the platter tools and stuff if you buy the kit remotely. And if you take my class, you get a lot more information because we're going for 10, 12 hours a day, and you can ask your own questions. And sometimes people bring drives and we examine the drives physically inside the classroom and do things as well. And sometimes we actually do the data recovery on those drives they bring while we're there. So where they would normally send off a drive like $3,000 to get it recovered or whatever, they get it as part of the class. They get to go back with their data.
That's a nice bonus. I bet a lot of people bring their drives hoping that you'll take a look at it.
Yeah, I mean, we do what we can. We do have a lot going on in the class, but there is a portion where we actually have labs. And so as you catch up on your labs and you're able to do stuff, I can look at drives and we can spend time together on them while you're there in the class. Yeah.
And that sounds like a lot of fun. So you basically have like a class where you buy a kit, and it comes with videos, or you do your live classes, right?
Right, exactly. The kit in a box comes with all the tools that you need to do pretty much end-to-end the whole thing. But I have a 500 gig hard drive, which has all the class material, the regular class material loaded on it. But it also has about 80 or 90 hours of MP3s from 2 different classes. And then it has another something like 80 hours of video. Includes one complete class. I have some sections from other classes that I've taught where things were different or they were unusual. And then I also have the lab material where I would normally mentor somebody and sit down and do hands-on stuff with them is recorded separately. And so there'll be separate recorded sections where they can actually watch those videos as well. And because it comes on a hard drive and it's not online and stuff, they can actually, they keep it forever. It doesn't expire. So
Yeah, you
from
don't have to worry about slow download speeds or anything like that.
right, exactly. Well, and it's high quality, and they can watch it over and over and over again. So
How much does that kit cost?
it's $3,000.
But that comes with all this equipment. Like, does it come with that platter tool you were talking about? That
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it comes with over $1,000 worth of equipment and software, because we actually have a section where we're doing software recovery in the class as well. And so it comes with some of the tools to actually do software recovery, the commercial tools, and they're licensed to that student.
That's all. I mean, for a job that you have to charge a premium for, like data recovery, $3,000 might sound like a lot to some people, but in the scheme of things, if you're going into that business, it's like nothing.
Well, the majority of, because like if you go to some high-end data recovery places like OnTrack or Drive Savers or something like that, they're charging $2,000 plus per drive.
Right, exactly.
Usually, to compete with them, most of the people that I'm teaching or that are doing it as a business are charging somewhere between like $1,200 and $1,500 per drive. So 2 to 3 drives, you've paid for the material and you have a business. And I've taught over 200 people, and a good percentage, 50 or 60 of them, are probably running a business separately on their own. And I keep in constant communication with them. So I know, some of them are very successful at it. They're doing a great job. And some of them started the day after they walked out of the class. So
good for them.
Yeah, so it's completely plausible to use this material, because I come from that hacker mentality of if it's useful, then you can walk out the door and use it today. Some people do a lot of theory, and then maybe you can figure something out later on.
Right.
But I try to do things that are all like hands-on.
Totally.
You can walk out and use this tomorrow.
Totally.
And not just for data recovery, for forensics as well. There's a lot of people who want to do the job and testify about it in court or prepare the material. And forensics pays more. To be honest with you, it pays more than data recovery. So if this material can be used forward for that, somebody has a potential of making a lot more money.
How does the payout work for doing forensics?
Usually, this is where the difference comes in between data recovery or even IT work from that standpoint, because I ran an IT company for 15 years too. Most of the time, you do a job, and you may have a down payment from the client, and then after you're done with the job, if they're satisfied with the job, they pay you. That's the majority of data recovery and IT work. For forensics, almost all of it's just like a lawyer would do. You tell them up front, this is your engagement fee, and you have a contract, and the contract is signed, and somebody pays you X dollars up front for a job to be done. And then once you're done with the job, there's no arguing about what you've made or what you've done. You've done a job that had a contract and you were paid. So you already know that you're already successful when you got paid from that standpoint. You've already gotten your money. And so that to me seems like a lot better than the argument at the end always, because it doesn't matter how good you are at IT work, there's almost always an